2023, it really was the year of the scam. And scam of the year, of course, well, it was a hotly debated contest. You had Qantas and Orcus and PwC. It was a buffet, it was a banquet of scams. We're going to count them down quickly, but this time we're going to give quick fixes for the scams, because the scams are going to persist, of course, into 2024, and we're going to intrepidly and boldly cover all the big scams in Australia, corporate and political. So firstly, at number 9, it went largely unnoticed, the big fossil fuel scam with the latest try-on. Unnoticed, save in the financial press, were in their usual fossil fuel public relations mode. And after official forecast by the regulator AEMO, which showed that electricity prices were finally going to come down and that Australia's coal plants would close 5 years earlier than had been anticipated, the good old gas and coal lobby groups and the tax haven specialists, Energy Australia, if you get billed by them, bear in mind they're controlled in tax havens. They emerged, these lobbyists, like a bolt from the blue, demanding subsidies. They already get $11 or $12 billion in public subsidies a year, but they wanted more handouts for, we quote, government-backed strategic reserves of coal power. The subtext was, if you don't give us handouts, you're gonna get blackouts. That was the message. Even more stonkering when you consider that this industry is dominated by foreign multinational companies who've been pillaging the joint and heating the planet, paying very little tax for many years, decades indeed. How much tax do they pay? Some pay a little bit, but technically, as tax lawyers would say in the jargon, they pay bugger all. And it was the gas guys as well as the coal guys, like the pipeline mob Jemena, owned in Singapore and China, Supreme Tax Chiefs Jemena, here they were, asking for public subsidies. Now the fix for this, we're going to get a lot of scamming as the twilight of the coal and gas booms ends. We're going to get a lot of scamming. They've got a lot of holes in the ground and seabeds to fix up. Who's going to pay for all that? Well, some of it is already provided for, but unless there is a plan and unless all this is very much in the public domain, along with all their donations and how little tax they pay, we're going to get scammed over the next 20 years big time. What's the answer? Royal Commission. Usually we agree with the proposition that Royal Commissions can be lawyers' picnics, but they do give independent judicial inquiry, which doesn't come from the political class, into things which need to be fixed. So we don't think it's a waste of money. It will be money well spent so we don't get completely scammed. Coming in at number 8 is the population Ponzi scheme, which was addressed just last month, finally, by the Labor Party. Not enough, too little, too late, and we need proper debate about it. Amid the severe cost of living crisis, with more Australians homeless than ever and most Australians under stress, and calls by the opposition and other peddlers of xenophobia that armadas of boat people are coming to get us, the government finally moved to curtail immigration. The scam here was that this so-called dramatic move, as they dubbed it, was staggered until after the election, and too little too late. You see, the issue with the immigration Ponzi scheme, as we call it, is that it's a scam by big business and politicians, as it makes the growth numbers look better. It means cheap labour for big business. It means better GDP figures for government. It makes the economy look good when it's going nowhere. It's also a scam, by the way, unwittingly perhaps, on poor people by rich people, because asset prices like property go up because there's no demand, as do rents. The only downside is that the kids will have to stay at home a bit longer, maybe until they retire. It's a hot topic. It needs a parliamentary inquiry, because we do need immigration. We don't want to be a xenophobic nation. We're a nation of immigrants and First Nations people, but we need the right mix and the right approach and the right numbers, because without the infrastructure and the homes to house people, it is a joke. Coming in at number 7, the federal opposition. Huge scamming going on here because they don't actually have any policies. Fear and greed is it. Saying no to everything that the government does. The scam here is simply to get back into power without having anything to offer, nothing in the way of alternative government policy. Nuclear power looks like a policy, but it's not commercially viable, and if we did it, it will be too little too late. And if it were viable, then there will be proposals by multinationals to deliver nuclear power plants, which there are not. So the scam is a massive political distraction designed to keep fossil fuels running for longer. The fix, we said before, the government needs to dump the media bargaining code, which props up the mainstream media, which backs all this nonsense and makes it a daily talking issue. Government needs to ignore News Corp and Nine. And the government needs to pay some homage to the market, to free enterprise, and encourage independent media by not propping up, through the digital media bargaining code, fossil media. Make it a level playing field. Coming in at number 6 in the Scam of the Year stakes was the Voice No Vote. The No Vote got up with its slogan, "If you don't know, vote no." Classic fear-mongering won the day here, as the chipmunks of the Murdoch press ran the line that they were coming to get us, they, with their humongous bureaucracy. If you don't know, bloody well find out. Do some reading. Not that hard. The Voice was simply about a few words in the Constitution that recognised Indigenous people after all these years, just a few words. Parliament would do the rest and establish the actual advisory body with no powers of legislation whatsoever. But no, noted intellectuals such as Warren Mundine and Jacinta Dampimpa Price, backed by the usual nefarious elements in the media and the coalition, managed to nix it. They even had their eyes on your kid's soccer field, according to one Sky News commentator about the Yes Cab. The fix? Well, there's no fix. No more referendum now for quite a time. The next one may be the monarchy, the British rule. But there is a good little fix. Change the date of Australia Day to May 27, to at least recognise First Nations people that way and address the faltering reconciliation process that the No Vote has thrown up. Coming in at number 5, the gutting of the share market of the ASX. This is a big one for competition because foreign takeover predators have been out in style again in 2023, and no doubt there's a few bids on the table now. They'll be doing it again in 2024. Reducing the number of big companies, which our superannuation gravy train can invest in. Good. An increasing chunk of the ASX is now just the big 4 banks, Rio and BHP, the big 4 banks, propped up by government, investing in each other. You may have noticed that just in recent days, a takeover bid for mining engineering mob Boart Longyear, nicknamed Borat for its performance on the share market over the years. Another US private equity firm is bidding here. And along with the takeovers of Australia's biggest gold miner Newcrest by US giant Newmont, along with the other takeovers of the likes of Link and Blackmores, a raft of others. And let's not forget the big merger talks between Woodside and Santos. Big business just keeps on getting bigger. There's less to invest in. It's more concentrated. Why are so many foreign players buying marquee Australian companies? Because prices are high in Australia and the market is concentrated. That's why. And because they get the big 4 and the tax lawyers to restructure them so they don't pay tax for many years. As tax is 30 cents in the dollar, there's big savings in tax, in getting rid of income tax liabilities. So it's an attractive proposition for foreign takeover merchants, a private equity mob. The scam, of course, is that it makes local companies less competitive in a takeover duel. So the foreign guys often win the day. It's a good thing that the $20 billion bid by Brookfield for Origin Energy was foiled by the super funds, because Brookfield's last 2 takeover outings in Australia ended up Aveo, the nursing home group, publicly subsidised, controlled by Bermuda now, thanks to the Brookfield bid. And the other takeover bid for Healthscope, 41 private hospitals, also publicly subsidised, now are owned and controlled in the Cayman Islands. The fix: get FIRB to be more transparent. Reform the tax code to make foreign multinationals pay some tax. They're the ones who can afford it most. They pay the least dollar for dollar. They're also the biggest freeloaders in terms of subsidies. Make it a thing for FIRB to be more transparent, bulk up the ACCC, and let's see tax effect brought into account when evaluating foreign takeovers. Coming in at number 4, it's an absolute Monty of a scam. Orcus submarines. Now this Orcus was originally a ScoMo plan, or ScoMo brain explosion. It was embraced by Albo with 24 hours notice. He was wedged because he didn't want to look weak on national security. So after a decade of neglect and botched defence spending and procurement, suddenly we're on the hook for $380 billion for submarines which won't be delivered for years. Now, there are many scams here. We've been way ahead of the game on this thanks to Rex Patrick, our coverage of the Orcus scams. We've signed up not just to pay for the rebuilding of US and UK shipyards, but also to fly foreign defence officials around the globe on defence junkets for Orcus, dispose of their nuclear waste in Australia, and hand over our sovereignty to the US by giving them their own military bases on Australian soil. Oh, and funding their nuclear missile program, the Tridents, to boot. The fix? Well, this is one heck of a mess. Is there really a fix? How do we backtrack now? War powers reform would help to ensure that the decision to go to war, instead of coming down to just one guy, the Prime Minister, gets to be subject to a vote in Parliament. They vote on it in Congress in the US. In UK Parliament, the whole Parliament votes on whether to go to war or not. Let's stop. Let's contain the prospect of being roped into another US useless war like Iraq, Vietnam, Afghanistan, the Gulf War, and what's shaping up now to be World War III in the Middle East. Let's have war powers reform. Coming in at number 3, Israel's self-defense. If Orcus is a majestic scam on Australia by the US, Benjamin Netanyahu said over in Israel, hold my beer. I'll scam the whole world. I'll show you how to do a genocide while claiming that you are the victim. And so it is that we had the babies beheaded scam, the we don't bomb hospital scam, daily lies, total scams, myriad BS, and now 22,000 Palestinians massacred in Gaza. More than 10,000 children. The oil prices through the roof as the Houthis disrupt shipping in the Red Sea. That pushes up inflation, puts a lid on world trade. It is a disaster, and now Israel's bombing the capital of Lebanon, Beirut, to take out Hezbollah and Hamas leaders. It's an epic own goal by genocide Joe Biden and the butcherman and the butcher Benjamin Netanyahu and his bloodthirsty cronies, because anti-Semitism is now rampant. They've shot themselves in both feet, the government of Israel. It's affected Jews around the world, as well as everybody else. Goodwill for Israel has gone up in smoke. 3 months. And American prestige has shot its authority in the world. The global rules-based order, as they call it. China and Russia are looking smug. What an absolute abomination it has been. And Australia, back to the hill by the corporate media, which is completely captured by the Zionist lobby, has bought it all hook, line and sinker. Never seen more disgraceful media coverage of any event in my lifetime. It's all so tragic. But Israel apparently is our friend. Benjamin Netanyahu is our friend. That's the official government line. What to do about this scam? It's a hard one because media types and politicians don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to lose their funding. But this rules-based order thing is just a scam. The fix? Bow out of the genocide lobby. Do the right thing. Probably a good way to contain the Orcus pending disaster as well. Do the right thing. Say no to genocide, racist apartheid regimes, ethnic cleansing. Tell Israel you are not our friend until Netanyahu is gone and peace talks are underway. Coming in at number 2, an enormous scam on shareholders, customers, and public money. None other than the mangy kangaroo, good old Qantas. They get $2.5 billion in COVID subsidies or more. Then they get done by the federal court for sacking hundreds of their own workers. And then it emerges, then they get done by the High Court as well. for the same thing, illegally sacking their own workers. Then it emerges that they've been flogging tickets to their customers, 8,000 of them, for flights which did not exist. And when they got busted for this prodigious ghost flight scam on their customers, they claimed they were not actually in the business of selling flights on aeroplanes. No, what customers were actually buying were rights to bundles of flights, not flights themselves. They were buying a concept, they said, or they claimed, not a travel service. ACCC should not settle this one. They should go for the jugular. Quantis has become, therefore, the symbol of everything wrong for neoliberalism, with corporations increasing power over governments, politicians being patsy to their lobbyists. If the GFC bailed out the banks, by the time COVID rolled around and the JobKeeper corporate welfare orgy came along, it became evident that there was no free market, just corporations getting what they could out of government and the public purse. Qantas should never have been privatised in the first place. It's just a sinkhole for public money and private greed. And in the end, it was not just taxpayers, workers and customers getting shafted, but even shareholders too. The fix: end corporate welfare. All this talk about the market is just phony. That means we need to have lifetime disclosure of political donations, politicians' diaries, fix the FOI system to get transparency going, and let voters know what they're actually voting for. Then they can make a proper decision. It is the answer to good democracy, transparency. And number one, the scam, the pièce de résistance for 2023. Good old PwC and the Big Four. A scam which finally began to unravel after so many years. Here we have four firms notching up double-digit revenue growth, not profit growth, revenue growth for years, after conning governments that they were experts on everything, effectively outsourcing the public service to consultants. Here they are skiving about inside governments and almost every large corporation as either auditor or tax-dodging advisor or consultant, or both, or all three. No conflict of interest there, not on your Nelly. Here they were on such a glorious wicket, but then PwC gets busted for treason. It began with a ban for one single little tax advisor by a mob nobody had ever heard of, the Tax Practitioners Board, and it snowballed from there. The cover-up was worse than the crime. Dozens of PwC partners embroiled in the scandal. Firm confidentially advising government about tax laws, then flogging that secret information to their multinational clients. And the cover-up, three, not one, but three independent reports. Only one has seen the light of day, and that's Ziggy Switkowski's independent report, which didn't rely on primary evidence, only a curated tranche of information provided by the partners, PwC. They scammed him, they scammed Australia yet again. And so they sold off their government advice business for just $1. It was $1 billion revenue business, telling the government how to go about government. Give me a watch and I'll tell you the time. They sold it for just $1 and then had the obligatory independent inquiry. The Big Four scam had to begin to unravel at some point, and last year was the year. This was the year when the fortunes turned for the accountants of fortune. Trust us, bro. The Big Four had it too good for too long. Too powerful, too large, just a scam. And so Scam of the Year goes to PwC. And the fix, what is the fix for these private concerns that dominate politics and business globally? The fix is bust them up. It's the only fix. Conflict of interest are too high. Bust them up along audit, tax and consulting lines, or they'll be gaming those Chinese walls. It'll keep on going. They're too big, too powerful. They need to be bust up. Thank you for your support. Look forward to a great 2024. It's got to be better than 2023. I think a lot of people struggled. Please help us with a few bucks if you can. Otherwise, like, share, comment in the section below.